Hello all. Today I'm going to provide a demonstration about using WebSphere Transformation Extender Launcher Hypervisor Edition on Pure Systems. IBM WebSphere Transformation Extender, hereafter called WTX, now offers its launcher in a hypervisor edition. It's essentially a copy of WTX with launcher pre-installed on a Red Hat Linux image that has been designed to work using virtualization managers such as IBM Workload Deployer. The benefits of a hypervisor edition include simplified versioning, administration, scalability, and redundancy. Today, in the demonstration, I'm going to build a simple launcher system for reading and writing a blob with file trigger enabled. We are going to import the launcher hypervisor into PureSystems, learn about how to create scripts with WTX artifacts, create patterns and associate the artifacts with a pattern, and deploy and monitor the launcher instance with WTX Management Console. Let's look at the prerequisites. The prerequisites for this demo are access to Pure Application System, WebSphere Transformation Extender Design Studio 8.4 for building your maps and systems, and 64-bit launcher tools for monitoring your launcher instance through Management Console. There are also a couple of articles present on IBM Developer Works that talks about how you can consume WebSphere MQ messages using IBM Workload Deployer and WTX. For the support resources for IWD and WTX, both have info centers available in the web. So to learn more about these products, please visit the info centers and look at product specific information. So to start this, the first thing we need to do is bring up WTX Design Studio to actually build your type trees and maps. Once I bring up the Design Studio, I created a demo project, and within the demo project I created a simple type tree with just one item, that is a blob. Since we are dealing with just a blob in and blob out as part of the demonstration, the type tree does not require more than this. Once I create the type tree, the next step is to create a map source and maps. I created again a demo.mms map source file, and within that created a simple map called simple, and it has one input card and one output card. The input card is pointing towards the blob, and it's reading from a demo.txt file. And the output card is pointing to same blob from in the MTT file, and then writing to demo.out.txt. So the next step in the process is to actually build it and run the map. The map did complete successfully, and I should see demo.out.txt file, this is a demo instance document. So once we have a map, the next step is to create a flow. For this, you need to go and bring up the integration flow designer. So I'm just going to and just pick integration flow designer. It's already open, and within the integration flow designer I created a system file called blob2blob and a system file demo.msl file. I dragged onto the palette the map source file and selected the simple system. If you could see that, the map source file coming from a simple system. The only thing I did different here is that I enabled the source event for file triggering, and then added wildcards to pick any file that is dropped into the trigger directory onto the home system, and my map server location is defined as home/wtx user systems.simple.lnx. On the same note, on the output card, I did override to copy all the to generate all the outputs into an output directory, and I'm using the same wildcarding mechanism. Once you create this simple system, the next step is to analyze it and generate the MSL. So we did a couple of steps here. The first step is that we created maps to read input and output, and we created a system to be deployed onto the launcher. Now, the next step we have to do is that we need to create IWD scripts so that it allows us to actually associate the WTX artifacts into a pattern so that we can deploy these artifacts on as many instances as we want. So if you want to know more information about IWD scripts, please visit the IWD Info Center and look into the scripts. I already created a IWD script for these artifacts. I'm going to just walk through them right now. So what you see here is a zip file, which is a script. So if I look at the contents of the script, it has a tar file and a JSON script, which IWD does understand, and a deployment msl.sh file. So let's look at the contents of the tar file. The tar file contents are nothing but WTX maps and the input and output directories. Simple.lnx, which is a Linux map, a trigger, which is your input, source location, and output, which is your output source location. So let's look at the script files. The first one is the JSON file. If I show you the JSON file, the JSON file is a IWD way of invoking during the deployment phase. So what it does is that it has the description, it has the command, what needs to be done, it has a logging, where we should be logging during the process, and it has some of the keys that are defined here. So I'm going to give a pause for a minute to actually look at the contents of the JSON script. I'm going to close it now, and then let's go into the contents of the WTX deploy msl.sh file. So what this is that it does a bunch of things. The first thing it does is that it's going to untar the tar file, and it's going to copy the maps and the artifacts to a particular location, more specifically to /home/WTX user/systems, and the MSL file. It's going to start the launcher, and it's going to take a snapshot from the management console command. So it's going to do all this stuff. So let me walk through the script file so that all of you have some time to look at it. I'm going to scroll down. going to close the script file and close the zip. So at this point, we have the maps build, we have the systems build, we have the scripts files to be deployed into IWD. The next step in the process is to deploy our OVA into PureSystems. So let me bring up the PureSystems workload console, and if you go to the catalog and virtual images and select add, you can provide the path of the OVA file here, and once you select OK, the OVA is going to be imported as a part of the process. I already did as a part of the process before, so this is my new OVA file imported into PureSystems. So the next step is to import your scripts packages into IWD. So select again catalog, scripts packages, add, just give a name, so while it's processing I need to get access to the project itself. Path, upload, open, and let me select the zip, upload. So if you would see, it did go through the JSON document and kind of captured all the environment variables defined in the JSON document. So now we have your script file with WTX artifacts uploaded to your pure AS systems, and WTX launcher OVA imported into the catalog. The next step is to create patterns. So you go to patterns, virtual systems, and say new, and say WTX demo launcher pattern. This is a demo. So going to do an edit. So search for WTX here. So I drag and drop. The next one is I associate the script file and drag and drop a script file. You could see 3 script files. All the script files are from the same zip file. Done. Now my pattern is ready for deployment. So I'm going to select deploy. So going to give a name, WTX demo launcher. Configuration environment, OS. So I need to fill all this information as a part of the deployment. So I want to add my additional deployment directory like home wtx user systems system launcher. I want to start right away, and everything is by default. So deployment here, just want to make sure. Okay, select OK. Okay, so now my pattern is in the deployment phase. It's going to take some time to actually deploy, and during the process I'm going to show some different phases of the deployment that actually involves deployment, applying the scripts, and finally the start phase. Right now it's queued up. So currently it's starting the virtual machine. It's right now executing the scripts packages. Still executing the script packages. And finally the virtual system has been deployed. So let's go and see what actually happened. So I'm going to go expand the virtual machines, and there is an SSH login here. I'm going to provide my username, password. You should be able to see a couple of things. Let's first go and look at the maps. For cd/home, so you should be seeing here maps directory under WTX users, the output, the Linux file, .lnx file, and a trigger directory, and the systems. You should be seeing the file demo.msl. So the maps the scripts have been applied to this instance, and you should be seeing those artifacts, TX artifacts already moved onto the instance. The next step is, let's see what the install itself. If I go to the /opt cd, let me do an ls here, IBM, if you see that in one of the part of the our scripts packages, we already mentioned that we want to start the event server automatically, and we already created a bin file for management console to check the status of it. So if you see that an event server on port number 15 has been already started, and you could see a launcher admin.bin that is being, this is the administration bin file that is being consumed by the launcher has been created, and a management console bin has been created. Let's look at the log files to make sure that the launcher has been started. So I'm going to so the launcher administration has been, the launcher has been opening on the port, is off, automatic startup is on, there is no recovery bin file. List of deployment directories. So it looks like the launcher has been started. Let me take a look at the compound system itself. So the compound system has been created with all the launcher specific information here. So for me, the next step is to actually connect to this launcher through management console from my Windows session. So I'm going to capture the program files, launcher studio, management console. Host name, everything remains the same. If you see that the launcher has been started, and I could see that the number of history and history of successes and total maps are 0, 0. For my next step, I need to just put a file into one of the input directories so that it's going to trigger the system and an output file is going to be created. So go back here, the console. We are going to create a simple text file. So I'm going to copy the simple So you should be seeing that once I copy it, the maps have run, and you should be seeing the total number of successes as 3 and total maps are 4. Um, Let me open. Let me open through Putty so that it's much more easy for me. So I copied again a new file. Just to close this one. This is the old system. Close it. And if you look at the WTX pure system, you should be seeing 2 successes and 2 failures. And if I go back into the output directory, you should see the new file simple.txt. To just make sure that everything is fine again, I'm going to create another file by demo.txt. This is a test. I'm going to copy the demo.txt to trigger directory. So you should be seeing the map count has been bumped from 2 to 3, and if I look at the output directory, I should be seeing something called demo.txt here. So that should conclude the demo. What I demonstrated here is that how to use a WTX launcher on pure application systems. Coming back to the article that was written in the developer words, it does talk about how customers can use WebSphere MQ along with IBM Workload Deployer and WebSphere TX. It talks about how you can create a so the article talks about how one can actually deploy a launcher instance and install an MQ client, capture and create extended patterns, and how this launcher image can work independently. How this can be work independently of other images to share the load and increases overall throughput. The article also demonstrates how you can abruptly remove active instances and bring new instances online. So it's a good read. And thank you for watching the demo. You all have a nice day.